Hello, and welcome to the Screwup Exchange with your host, Patrick.
And Roscoe.
Today we have a very special guest speaker. He's actually really important to me. He was my lean coach when I started in my lean journey. So he was mentoring me for about 6 months when I was doing my first lighthouse project, and we can talk a little bit about that more later. This man has over 10 years experience at Toyota. He was actually one of the Kaizen leaders and taught by the top senseis from Japan. After Toyota, he's had over or close to about 20 years of consulting experience. He was also an ex-director for JP Morgan for the operations excellence. He's also an international keynote speaker, and I would really like to welcome everybody to the Screwup Exchange, Jeff Davis. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Patrick and Roscoe. Very nice to be here.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I know this is your first time here, and we kind of talked a little bit before, and you wanted to know about our channel. So, about the Screwup Exchange, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So, I think I'm going to give it over to Drosco.
Yeah, basically, I think it was one day Patrick came over and said, "Hey, would you like to do a podcast?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" I mean, it was a time when everything was shut down in Germany, so we were not working. It was like boring. So we started to think about what could it be, and basically we thought, a lot of people are talking just about their success stories and everything. And we all know that the success stories have always another side. And it was like the screw ups, right?
Exactly. and that's kind of like what we were thinking about. We were talking about, we were giving training to our internal people. They really loved our screw ups. They were like, okay, this did not go perfect. And then when we got to explaining, okay, this may not be the textbook example, but it worked and why. And that was the best learning that the trainees ever got from us. So, yeah.
Well, my experience as well, I'm sorry, Dresco, but some of the greatest lessons that I've learned in my career have been from screw ups, and then having to use lean type tools to work my way out of that screw up. And you build a lot of faith in the system that way.
Do you have like a favorite screw up or your most memorable screw up in all your years of experience?
So many screw ups, so little time.
We could do another series.
Yeah, we can talk all day, but one thing that really stands out in my mind, I had been sent down to take over an automated line at Toyota, and I was just in the formative years of my career. The manager came out and spoke with me and said, if you go to this particular automated line and if you aren't successful, it's no big deal because nobody else has been either. It had been a screw up line for a number of years. And he says, however, if you are successful, then you can write your own ticket. So I'm like, all right, writing my own ticket sounds more my speed, right?
Yeah.
So I was sent to this line. I started making some minor improvements I said, give me a maintenance man for a week. And he was making program changes, and I had quality, and we were working things out and trying to get the OEE up to a decent level.
Could you give a little bit more background of like where you're talking about? Like a lot of people don't know the terms like OEE, and like, was this at Toyota or a different company or?
This was at Toyota,
Okay.
and I was a team leader in powertrain on what was called the balance shaft line, which the balance shaft sat on the bottom of the crankshaft and helped reduce engine vibration and noise.
Okay.
They were to the point of they were ready to put in a sister line for several $1 million because of the inefficiency of the balance shaft line. And I went there with as kind of a last resort. I was a bit of a fixer at that time. as the last resort. I went there and started to make some improvements with maintenance, and finally Toyota agreed to have the machine vendor come in and work with me for a period of time. So they came in for about 6 weeks to work with me. Now, where the story gets a little screwy, I had told the maintenance men that I wanted to learn ladder logic, and I wanted to learn how to program robots and how to, open and close switches in a Toyota ladder logic system. And they were like, no, you can't learn that. That's not a production function. I'm like, look, you can either teach me or I'm going to figure it out myself. And then they opted, okay, we'll teach you a little bit. So one day, the machine went down and I had machine vendors standing all around me, right? There was like 4 different Japanese circled around me, and I was at the machine. I opened up the panel, went in and got the puck, programmed a couple of things, and I got ready to hit the start button. And one of the Japanese slapped my hand away. And I'm like, dude, I'm thinking, you do that again and you're pulling back a nub if that happens again. And, I went to press the start button again. No, Jeff-san, no. I'm like, oh, come on. It's okay, man. I got this. Right? No problem. And I started to press it again, and they said, no. And finally, I'm like, look, it's no problem. I got it. I hit the start button. That robot crashed so bad. Pieces of robot went flying all over the plant. I mean, it destroyed that thing. It must have torn it into 1,000 pieces that just scattered everywhere. And the Japanese were looking at each other and looking at me with kind of this expression on their face, like, oh. And then they said a couple of things, and I'm not sure how you say idiot in Japanese, but I'm pretty sure I heard that and a few other more choice words at the time. So, I crashed, several $100,000 piece of equipment. I shut down not only the engine assembly line, but the vehicle assembly line and everything in between while we try and work our way back into getting the machine put back together to the drawings. So fortunately, I did have the machine builders there, and they were able to save us a little more quickly than had they not been there. But that was a pretty big screw up.
Wow.
I still see the picture of the road. It's all over, and the Japanese guys. I think they were very, very serious. Still, they didn't panic, right? So, or do they show some emotions in this case?
In this case, like I said, I'm pretty sure I heard dumbass in Japanese. I'm not 100% certain, but it's more than likely that I did. And the reaction was priceless. They don't show a lot of emotion. They don't show a lot of anger. But they show this incredulous look, and the expression is always like, oh. They turn their head to the side and it's like, what just happened? Who just did that? And that was about the most emotion that we got out of them. And, immediately they started rapid fire Japanese and doing what it takes to get the machine back up and running.
Wow. So what was the reason? Why did you hit the bottom? Can you remember what was the root cause of this?
Well, the root cause of of my hitting the button, there was a proximity switch that was slightly out of adjustment, and I knew that the part, or at least I thought the part, was in the correct position. I thought the proximity switch was not working correctly, so I opened up and I went into the logic and I opened up the switch for the proximity switch to show that it had done its function. And it just so happens that the entire engine was out of position. So when that robot came in and started to try and do its thing, because it thought, hey, it's in the right place, that's when pieces went flying.
So how did you survive how long have you been with Toyota till this point?
I was probably in about year 6 at that time.
And you made another almost 9 years?
4 years.
With, or 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Was this mistake even?
5 years. I was there for 11
Okay.
years.
Okay.
In total. And yeah, I made it. I made it to the next level. As a matter of fact, when it got to a point that when that balance shaft line broke down and maintenance couldn't fix it, they would call me to come and fix the balance shaft line from my new job. So, you know, there was a bit of pride on the line there. And I think that's also the lesson learned. I think I let pride get the best of me. I thought I knew better, and I definitely was not exhibiting humility. I was, you know, my chest was all swollen up, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to show these Japanese guys, you know, just what these American guys can do. And I showed them all right. Yeah, I showed them that that robot comes apart pretty easily.
That's crazy. So from one lean guy to another, after you made that mistake, what changed within Toyota so that, because we always talk about lean as about like error proofing and making sure that mistakes don't happen again. What was the follow-up after, you know, the misalignment and you hit the button and then the machine, parts went flying? Like what happened afterwards?
Well, I can tell you for me personally, I just learned to, one, listen when somebody more knowledgeable is standing right beside me, telling me, you know, do or don't do something. I learned to listen. All right. So, you know, going back to the principle of leading with humility, that's certainly something that I learned and had to follow. You know, in terms of a more technical side, I learned that you know, if you're messing with ladder logic in a robot type system, that you need to check more than one Pokeoke device, more than one error proofing device. So you know, even though it looked like the one proximity switch was in position, had I checked a couple of others, I would have found that they were out of position as well, and I would have avoided the mistake.
Gotcha. That's really interesting.
So I think also the culture of this Toyota learning experience is not just to blame people after mistakes happen. They trying to, that's what I've heard. I never worked for Toyota, but from other Toyota guys, that they are really good in this, not to blaming people. And after a mistake, they're trying to understand why the mistake happened and try to learn out of it. Yeah. So everywhere like this.
There were so many times when I probably could have been fired at Toyota. And I think for some reason, the Japanese watched over me. They took me under their wing and didn't let me get shipped out the door. I know that, you know, I could tell you a couple more screw ups where I thought, oh man, I'm definitely gone. I'm out of here. But that wasn't the case. You know, it was more, what did you learn? What did you learn from this? And what are you going to do differently in the future? And I got to tell you, those lessons learned were so deeply ingrained in me after that going forward, not only for those exact type situations, but for similar situations as well. It was a learning experience that I never could have experienced had I not made the mistake.
Yeah, that's interesting because like when you make that mistake, the damage is already done, the cost is already done. So it's basically like if you try to let somebody go after that, they basically just threw away a lot of good money instead of getting that knowledge so that you can do better in the future. Have you seen that across, because you've worked in a lot of different industries, like you said it at Toyota, they were really looking after you, but like in other Western industries, Have you seen that same principle applied, or?
No, I've seen it more likely in Western culture as well as in Asian culture. That had that happened, then the blame would have clearly been cast on the individual, not the process, and there would have been some sort of disciplinary action, which most likely would have been the termination of that employee.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you mentioned. When I was in Japan, I realized very fast that Toyota is not a Japanese way of thinking at all. So Toyota is something special. So before that, I was thinking Toyota is so successful with their Toyota production system because it's from this cultural environment. But it's not only about this, and I think this is why Toyota is not really only successful with their production systems only because they're out of Japan. And I think there is much more behind it, this cultural aspect, from my understanding.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely, it's much more than it's not a Japanese thing; it's a Toyota thing.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. I mean, there are a lot of things they saw in the U.S. when they were there. They took it to Japan and optimized it and make a Toyota production system out of this. I mean, when you go today in this American fast food chains like Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, these processes are amazing. I'm always like there, and I was thinking, that's so interesting how good organized these guys are, how fast I get my meal when I get in. And it's really something crazy.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Dresco, is when you go into these places, especially once you, I would say maybe in your third, fourth year of your lean journey, you're automatically watching those processes and you're thinking, wow, this could be done better. This could be done better. That's non-value added.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's funny when I'm like talking to my wife, when I go in there and I'm like looking at this and I start to speak, and then like I have to actually hit myself and I'm like, stop thinking about it. Yeah. She's not interested.
Yeah, and that's also a good point. I think since you have been trained for this lean thinking, you never stop to think about this. You are always thinking how to optimize something, It's either is the way to the supermarket, how do you go pick up your stuff in the supermarket? If you go to the airport, how to pack your pieces together. It's sometimes I just wish, stop thinking about this. Just live your life for an hour without thinking of optimizing anything.
Yeah. Well, if we could just get the entire world to think lean, how much more effective and efficient, and airport lines, how much more smoothly would those go if people had that lean thinking process.
And it's really interesting to point out, like a lot of people think of lean just in production, but lean can be done everywhere. Like you were the executive director for JP Morgan, which was not production. Like, do you have any like really good examples from JP Morgan where you're implementing lean in like a service or, as we say, an indirect or administrative operations?
Yeah, let me make sure I don't divulge anything that I'm not supposed to here.
But in general, we don't need
JP Morgan Chase, they have in certain strategic locations cash vaults where they process cash that comes in and goes back out. And, Patrick, when we've talked about inventory in the past in a factory, I've often said, look at that inventory as a stack of money. And what else could you be doing with that stack of money were it not sitting there waiting? And in a cash vault, the inventory literally is a big stack of money.
Oh my gosh.
So, that's one similarity. Risk and controls, and being able to monitor and measure what's going on at any given time in those facilities. Something as simple as 5S and floor markings. I had a security officer come to me and tell me a story about, hey, you guys taped off the floor, and there was a cart that was missing. And I could see that on the video. I could see the outline of the cart, but the cart wasn't there. And I could immediately then go and, hey, where's the cart? The cart's missing. So just a guy watching what's going on, surveilling a video as you would expect in that sort of environment was just able to, something as simple as 5S floor marking, remedy a problem for the firm. So there are things there. We worked in legal with just applying some lean thinking to the legal process. It's human resources, all the different back office processes, check processing, credit card processing, credit card manufacturing, which is not that different than what we're used to. So don't let the sector fool you. There's going to be similarities. Everybody's got a process, right? Some sort of process. And lean is about finding the opportunities and then improving on that process. And that's what we were able to do at JP Morgan Chase and Company.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I think it's really important to explain to people like that misconception, like you can do lean or improvements everywhere. And like I've noticed that I remember when I was working at one of the manufacturers, I was doing the art project, which was kind of it was in production, but it was more of the office environment. And I remember to this day, this woman came to me and she's like, why are we doing this? We are not manufacturing. Like, because we were trying to improve the office environment, like setting up a shop floor management board, or basically just like a team board to kind of check where people are at, and like setting up like an hour by hour, like, okay, are you on task? Are you not on task? And she got like a little upset about it because she was like, we're not manufacturing, this doesn't apply to us. And like, it was just explaining to her, it's like, no, this is really just like a way for you to escalate an issue if you have one. And it's not, we're not trying to blame anybody. It's just like, look, I have an issue. Can I get some support or something else? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Problem identification and problem solving capability, and then having a suite of tools to use as countermeasures whenever a root cause or even a containment for a problem has been identified. But really, it's about that systematic thinking, getting into that, plan, do, check, act, and what I call A3 type thinking. Okay, what's my standard? Where am I at now? What's the discrepancy? How long has it been going on? What's the extent? What's the rationale? Right? And start thinking through things that way, and then brainstorming potential causes. And instead of jumping to conclusions, going out and finding evidence and either proving that, hey, I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's not this particular potential cause, or the data suggests that, hey, this could be the most likely cause. And then you can start to dig down and get into your root cause and apply appropriate countermeasures there.
Jeff, can I ask you a question about what the future of lean is? I often see discussions on LinkedIn about digitalization and the new form of everything, and we don't need lean. Maybe the agile or whatever is changing lean. What is your opinion on that?
I think it's an interesting debate, but at some point, even if it's robots and it's computer processing doing it in milliseconds, at some point it's going to come down to how few milliseconds can something be processed? How quickly can it be processed? How much waste can we take out of that automated system? So, I mean, I think it's all going to come full circle. It's easy to get scared of what we don't understand, but data and analytics and intelligent automation, artificial intelligence, that conspiracy theory could be lurking out there right now. We just don't know.
Terminator. Like the Terminator.
Yeah, like the Terminator. Well, I'm very hopeful that if and when we do stumble upon artificial intelligence, that it'll be kind and benevolent enough that it'll recognize the weaknesses of us humans. So maybe no Terminators.
Hopefully not. Not in this way.
Yeah,
like in the movie. Yeah.
Well, I had another question. So we talked a lot about like your past and like what you've done when lean, but what are you doing currently right now?
I got some really interesting things going on. I continue my relationship with Lean Coaching. I think Lean Coaching is a fantastic organization, and I really enjoy working with and for them, and will continue to do so over the future. I have a couple of different startups going. One is called leanonline.net, and basically it is, we realize that not every client needs a site visit every single time. Sometimes it's just a matter of checking the plan, sitting down, talking to that executive, understanding what's going on, saving the travel expenses, saving the risk associated with having someone travel to someplace. And I mean, you can do that on a global scale. So leanonline.net is, I think, a promising venture for Kevin Shapcott and myself. And then I also have a new startup that I'm working on personally, and it's called opexrecruiters.com. And instead of, companies just blasting, hey, I want somebody to be an OpEx leader, and you look at they've got a good OpEx background. I think the differentiating model for opexrecruiters.com is that I and folks who will be working with me, will have many, many years of experience in that type of environment. And we can actually go into a business, work with that business, and do an assessment, and then find the talent that's tailored to the particular needs of that business. So, not all businesses are created the same, and some of them have different strengths, different opportunities, and we'll want to capitalize on those with the right talent in the right place.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And like, I'm such a proponent of online assessments and reducing risk, like for travel. And, basically at the end of the day, you're giving a really good value proposition that you're able to do this probably a lot cheaper and the same quality of instruction or help. So no, that's really great, and really wish you all the best of luck on that.
Well, a bad hire can be very costly, in more ways than one. It can destroy your program.
Yeah.
And making sure that organizations get that right hire, that right fit. That's what opexrecruiters.com is all about. So, look for it. It's coming. The website's under construction, but the website is out there lurking, and so there's some contact information. So, looking forward to having some opportunities to work with different clients to help them find the talent that fits their organizational needs.
Oh, that's awesome. And, Jeff, I really want to say thank you so much. I know you're a really busy man. You got 2 startups and you're still doing your lean coaching consultant. So really thank you for taking the time with us to talk. Really appreciate it. So
yeah, thank you also from my side. It was very interesting to meet you. and hopefully we meet
likewise.
once in person.
Very interesting to meet you. And, Patrick, I've known you for a long time, and I'm happy to do this.
Appreciate
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, well, thank you. And this is the Screw Up Exchange. And our guest was Jeff Davis. Please check out his companies. We'll put them in the link in the video. And yeah, just reach out if you have any other questions. And thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Bye.
Bye, guys.